Hello ladies and gentlemen, once again this is Jeremy Smith, Photo Talk Jay the Great. I wanted to take just a brief period of time to talk to you about the D5200 versus the D3200. Both these cameras are entry-level DSLRs, and they have a lot of features in common. They're both 24 megapixels. They both are approximately the same size, as you can see. Not long ago we did a comparison video between the 3200 and the 5100, and during that video it became very apparent that Nikon was going to no doubt release a replacement for the 5100 soon, because even though the 3200 is technically a little bit below the 5100 in Nikon's lineup, because of advances in technology, the 3200 actually outpaced the 5100 in a lot of areas. So they were both the same speed. The 3200 was higher megapixels, and it also had features like Nikon's new WU-1A wireless transmitter. However, that's all changed. The D5200 came out, and I'm not going to go through all the fine details of that. Definitely check out my D5200 and D3200 review video for more in-depth information on both these. But anyways, getting back to just comparing the two of them. The 5200 is still 24 megapixels just like the 3200, but they updated just a few key areas. Probably the biggest thing about this camera is the fact that it has a lot of the features from the higher end D7000. Most notably the focus system. It's now 39 focus points, so that's something that's very useful if you're going to be taking photographs of any type of action photos. You know, it's going to be able to track moving subjects better. Also, if you're shooting portraits, you know, if you're shooting at wider apertures, you're going to get better focus in your portraits because you're not going to have to focus and recompose as much. So it does very well there. Also, a little bit better video options on this one. They did give it a built-in stereo microphone. Although both cameras have a microphone jack with manual audio levels, and you do have a few other video options also. You can actually do 60 frames per second in 1080i on this camera, whereas on the D3200 you have to drop down to 720p to be able to do 60 frames a second. So that's another thing that's kind of a nice addition here. Pretty solid package here. Probably the only thing that separates this from the higher cameras like the D7000 and D7100, obviously the main thing is going to be the body. The higher cameras are still going to have much better controls, and of course that's something that I feel like I'm saying all the time. Definitely go check out my pro level DSLR versus entry level DSLR video controls to kind of get a better explanation of that. But that's going to be one of the main areas where you're going to see some differences. And that's the main reason why the 5200, even though it has newer features, it's still technically pretty much at the same level as the 3200. Let's see here. Let's see if I'm missing anything else. There's a few little picky details between the two of them. The sensors are different in both these cameras. I don't really care who the manufacturer of these sensors is at this point. Just know that the 5200 is slightly better at high ISO. And when I say slightly, I mean very slightly. We'll probably look at some samples at some point in the future. The D5200 allows you to go up to 25,600 ISO. The D3200 allows you to go up to 12,800 ISO. Frankly, that doesn't matter at all very much. Both these cameras, if you get them above 3200 ISO, your image quality degrades pretty quickly anyway, so not really a big difference there. Let's see, I talked about the video a bit. It's kind of interesting that the D5200, it gets about 40 shots less per battery charge than the 3200. Just kind of a side note there. Speed wise, a little bit faster on the 5200, 5 frames a second versus 4. lots and lots of similarities between these two. If I were a photographer getting started and I were going to decide, or I was trying to decide between getting the D3200 and a couple of nice lenses versus just getting the D5200 with, one lens and, not being able to get any other accessories, I would still choose the 3200. I don't feel like there's a big enough difference between the two cameras. At least not where it counts. Yes, you get some more bells and whistles on the 5200. It does have a few other things like, well, it's got built-in HDR and it does have bracketing, but so what, If I were going to choose between the two cameras, I would probably still go with the 3200 with better lenses. If you're really, really serious about your photography though, then I would either go up to something like the D7000. And even though it doesn't have as many bells and whistles in certain areas, it's still going to do a much better job in the long run. If you are an advanced amateur, or if you start doing any type of professional work, or if you are a professional already and you're looking for a second body, definitely something like the D7000 is going to make more sense. You're going to get double the battery life of either of these cameras. You're going to get much better controls. You're going to have the ability to use, older lenses that don't have focus motors built in. You're going to get the ability to use a battery grip. And so on it goes. You're going to get a lot more usable features for the cost. Even if you were to go back with something like the D90, which was of course before the 7000. Even with that camera, you're going to get a lot more usable features in terms of more advanced shooting. So that's still the route I would go. I don't know, the 5200. I don't know, if I were going to spend that much money, I would probably just skip it actually. But anyways, that's just one man's opinion, of course. Definitely, if you have any questions or comments, just write me in the comments below. Definitely subscribe, because we will be looking at more cameras in the future. I have a feeling the next video is probably going to be a comparison between the 5200 and the 7100. Just as soon as I get another 7100 in my hands, they seem to be evaporating very quickly around me. Anyways, until next time, this is Jeremy Smith, Photog J the Great, signing off.